Look, everybody's seen them. The ones who used to grind 12-hour days, update their LinkedIn every other week, know every VP by first name. And then one day, gone. Not fired. Not burned out in some dramatic posted about it on Reddit way. Just quietly gone. Still working sometimes. Same city, same industry. But something switched off in their eyes. While everyone else is chasing the next title bump, the next salary band, the next annual review, these people are somehow okay with less. Smaller apartment, older car, way less impressive bio. No more Sunday anxiety. No more 10 p.m. Slack checks. No more performing gratitude in a company all-hands meeting. Happier. And your first instinct? Honestly, my first instinct is something's broken in them. Like they gave up. Like they weren't good enough and dressed it up as a choice. But neuroscientists ran imaging studies on this exact group in 2023. And what they found inside those brains? Completely changes the story. Stay with me. Because what I'm about to walk you through will completely reframe how you see ambition and who's actually playing the smarter game. Legally, I gotta say, none of this is financial advice. My professor told me to say that. He also told me the market is efficient. Make of that what you will. Let's start with why most people can't stop playing the game in the first place. Because nobody consciously chose to be obsessed with career status. You were built that way. Your brain runs what neuroscientists call the Mesolimbic reward circuit. Think of it as your internal casino floor. Every promotion, every great work email, every time your name gets mentioned in an all-hands meeting, your brain drops dopamine, the exact same chemical it releases for food, for physical attraction, for survival signals. Not a metaphor, your actual neurochemistry, the same system. And here's the evolutionary reason it exists. For 200,000 years, humans lived in tribal groups of 20 to 150 people. Your rank in that group determined your access to food, mates, and protection. Higher status, more survival resources. Lower status, real vulnerability. So your brain evolved to crave climbing and to feel genuinely threatened by falling behind. Now here's where it gets dark. Modern corporations reverse-engineered your tribal brain. They built the entire architecture of work around this exact circuit. Quarterly performance reviews. Timed like slot machine cycles. Dopamine hit. Promoted to senior anything. Status signal. Dopamine hit. LinkedIn endorsements. Shout-outs in company newsletters. Being put on the high potential list. Dopamine. 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 And it doesn't stop at the big stuff either. The 17 emoji reactions on your Slack message. The great point from the director in a meeting room of 20 people. The employee of the month email that goes company-wide. These are not coincidences. These are deliberately engineered micro-reward cycles. Researchers who study behavioral reinforcement found structural overlap between corporate engagement systems and casino psychology. The feedback loop mechanics, variable reward timing, status signaling, peer comparison are nearly identical. They didn't build a company you work for. They built a dopamine delivery system and put a company around it. And the genius part, the part that should genuinely make you pause, is that it works. Your brain can't distinguish between VP of marketing and alpha tribesman. It just reads, higher status, more survival chemicals. Run the program. You don't choose the addiction. You inherit it. You're just living inside the machine they built for it. So why do some people figure this out and walk out of the casino? A research team studying voluntary career downshifters, people who deliberately reduced hours, income, and professional status, put them in brain scanners, then showed them images of corporate success, corner offices, performance bonuses, impressive job titles. In the brains of people who'd stepped off the ladder, the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for evaluating and responding to rewards, showed significantly muted activation. The slot machine had stopped paying out, in that specific brain, in that specific person. And here's what nobody says out loud. That's not a malfunction, that's a recalibration. But how does the recalibration actually happen? Because people don't wake up one morning and philosophically decide status no longer matters. There's almost always a moment. Meet Marcus, 27, strategy analyst at a firm you've definitely heard of. Smart, ambitious, clearly on track. His calendar looked like a game of Tetris nobody was winning. 6:30 a.m. stand-up, 8-hour back-to-back block. Client call at 7 p.m. Brief window, usually around 10, to actually do the thinking the meetings claimed to be about. And then one afternoon, between back-to-back calls, his doctor rings back about routine blood work. No crisis, no dramatic symptoms, just inflammatory markers running at twice the normal range for his age group. No injury, no illness, just chronic, sustained stress. His body's physical response to living in a permanent high-alert state. Cortisol, for the street translation, that's your emergency alarm hormone. Your body floods you with it when a predator is chasing you. Or, apparently, when you're managing a client escalation at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday for the fourth week in a row. Research published in a leading neuroscience journal found that chronic cortisol exposure literally restructures the amygdala, your brain's threat detection system. After sustained high-stress exposure, the amygdala starts losing its ability to distinguish between genuine danger and perceived professional risk. Missing a quarterly target and being chased by a wolf start triggering the same internal alarm. The job stops feeling like ambition. It starts feeling like a threat the brain is trying to escape. And the withdrawal, the stepping back, isn't laziness. It's the immune response doing its job. Sometimes it's not burnout. Sometimes it's watching your parents, seeing a 63-year-old version of the game you're running. They won by every metric they were given. Senior title, company car, pension. And they're sitting across from you at dinner, barely present, still mentally in the office, unable to explain what they actually did with those decades. That moment tends to hit different than any performance review ever did. Now, there's a specific cognitive trait that shows up consistently in people who make this shift without losing everything. Behavioral economists call it temporal discounting flexibility. Most humans are genuinely bad at valuing the future relative to the present. If I offer you $100 today or $200 in 5 years, statistically, most people take the 100 now. The future gets heavily discounted. That's the baseline. Meet Jordan, 24. She turns down a 30% raise to go part-time. Everyone around her thinks she's being irrational. From the outside, the math doesn't add up. But Jordan can viscerally feel the version of herself at 45 and what that life actually costs. She's running the real calculation, not the quarterly one. Roughly 1 in 5 people have brains that hold future reward with nearly the same emotional weight as present reward. They can feel themselves at 50, vividly, viscerally, right now. And when that's your operating system, trading status today for presence tomorrow doesn't feel like sacrifice. It calculates as the better trade. But I'm not going to romanticize this, because the people who actually make it through this transition, they hit 3 walls, hard. Wall 1, identity collapse. Think about it honestly. If your career is how you answer, "So what do you do?" at every social event, what happens when that answer stops being impressive? For high performers, career is not a thing you have. It's a thing you are. Strip that label, and for a real, disorienting, ugly stretch of time, there is nothing coherent underneath it. You wake up Tuesday at 8. Nobody needs you anywhere. The day has no scaffolding, and you realize you have absolutely no idea what you like. Not because you're boring, because you spent years consuming yourself for someone else's timeline and forgot to notice. Psychologists describe this as a status identity vacuum. The brain processes it identically to grief. Same cortical patterns, same emotional stages, denial, anger, disorientation, slow reconstruction. This isn't metaphor. Losing a career identity is a genuine bereavement experience for the brain. Wall 2, social punishment. Here's the part people don't warn you about. Your social circle won't celebrate. Not honestly. The network you built in your high achievement phase shares the same tribal status system you're stepping out of. Your exit reads, to their brains, as a deviation from the group norm. So they distance, subtly, sometimes not even consciously. The group chat slows down. The dinner invitations thin out. The conversations get shorter and more surface level because your life no longer maps onto the shared scoreboard. They're not bad people. Their brains are just running the tribal exclusion protocol. Research on social exclusion shows that rejection from an in-group activates the same neural regions as physical pain. Not like pain, the actual pain processing circuitry, on brain scans. So yes, this move literally hurts for a while. Wall 3, the financial reality. And I want to be direct here. This wall is real. This is not irrational fear. Earning less means compounding less. Saving less means future options shrinking. Over decades, that gap compounds significantly. The math doesn't lie. The people who navigate this wall successfully aren't the ones who decided money doesn't matter. They're the ones who actually did the calculation. Here's exactly how much I need. Here's exactly what I have. Here's exactly how long the runway holds. Not philosophy, a spreadsheet. They don't spend less because they became enlightened. They spend less because they stopped buying things to signal status to a social circle they quietly left. The money goes further when it's not doing PR work. Data over feelings. That's always the move. Here's the part that surprised me most when I dug into this. For high performers, it's not really the money they miss after stepping off. It's not even the status. It's the game. The quarterly targets, the performance metrics, the leaderboard that tells you, at any given moment, exactly how you rank against everyone else. Most of human experience doesn't come with this structure. Life has no KPIs. There's no dashboard for how good a conversation was, no performance review for how present you were at dinner, no annual bonus for figuring out who you actually are when nobody's measuring you. And when you exit the corporate game, you lose the scoreboard. Nobody signals what winning looks like anymore. You have to build that framework from scratch. And for people who've spent a decade optimizing for somebody else's definition of success, that's not liberating. That's terrifying. Existential anxiety spikes. You lie awake wondering if the absence of external validation means you've stopped existing in any meaningful way. Dramatic? Maybe. But it's exactly what the research shows. Most people who try to make this transition go back. Not because they missed the job, because they missed the clarity of knowing where they stood. But here's what the neuroscience on the other side of that wall actually shows. A 4-year study tracking voluntary career downshifters found measurable shifts in reward processing over time. Year 1. Boredom, anxiety, compulsive checking of old professional metrics. Year 2. Slow emergence of unfamiliar reward signals. A long walk. A meal cooked without a deadline. A book read without a deliverable attached. By year 3, significantly elevated reward responses from what researchers categorized as low-stimulation activities. Long conversations, cooking from scratch, reading without a deliverable attached, being outside with no agenda. The brain wasn't broken. It was rebuilding the reward circuitry around a different set of inputs. Neuroscientists call this hedonic adaptation in reverse. The dopamine extraction machine they installed in you at age 22, it took time, real time, not a weekend away. But the brain recalibrated. The hardware was never permanently theirs. It just took 3 years of signal deprivation for the original system to come back online. And here's the final shift on the other side that almost nobody talks about. Researchers studying time perception found something unexpected in people who'd voluntarily reduced their cognitive load. They didn't just report more free time. They reported experiencing time differently, more slowly, more densely. A Tuesday afternoon felt like a whole Tuesday afternoon, not like a gap between back-to-back calendar blocks. The neuroscientific explanation. High stimulation environments compress subjective time perception. Your brain is processing so many competing signals, it literally speeds up its internal clock. When the stimulus drops, the clock slows. More experienced moments per hour. Literally more life felt. And the measures of success slowly stop being external. Not, what did my manager say this week, but did I actually feel present in that conversation? Not, did I hit the number, but does this thing I spent my time on actually feel like mine? Researchers found people who make this transition show increasing internal locus of control over time, trusting their own judgment more, becoming less reactive to external validation. And, interestingly, they tend to make cleaner financial decisions, because they're no longer spending to signal status. They spend on actual value. The status tax disappears from the budget. The math, eventually, gets simpler. Here's where I land on all of this. The system sold you one game, one ladder, one metric, one definition of winning, and it happens to require you showing up at 8 a.m., hungry, compliant, and chasing a reward they control the schedule on, for 40 years. In exchange for a title that stops mattering the second you stop showing up. That's a very convenient story for the people running the casino. A growing number of people, backed by brain scans, not Instagram posts, are seeing it for what it is. A system optimized for their extraction, wearing the costume of your ambition. Some people figured this out and got lost in the transition. Some got financially reckless. Some ran back to the casino because at least the casino had a scoreboard. But the ones who made it through, they didn't opt out of ambition. They opted into a harder version of it. No scoreboard, no external validator, no guaranteed dopamine hit scheduled for you at the end of Q4. They had to define what winning actually looks like when nobody else is watching, and build an internal system that's theirs, not leased to them by a corporation that could restructure it out of existence on a Tuesday afternoon. That's harder work than anything in their corporate casino. Just the actual question, does this life feel like mine? A harder game than anything they built. And the house can't rig it. Don't let them play you. Listen to what they're actually saying.